called The Final Days of Mary Jesus. I was visiting a friend in need one night in mid-December with a favor he was asking, and the risen Savior was no help. We don't believe, we bleed, and go on living if we can. A punk girl was evicted. Did I have a spare room? 33 and heavy set with black hair and a stare. Her life a pile of junk and medication with a dirty sweatshirt. There had been a fire in her building. Ambiguities of pain and guilt were in the air. How gothic can you get? She was going through the refrigerator, slow and fatalistic and polite, a woman well acquainted with the night. I spoke with her, and then it's see you later, as I shook her hand and left the telephone number of a friend of mine who rented spaces in his theater. Demented as it was, she wouldn't be alone at night. I told him she was interested and would call him on the following day. She never called. A tunnel vision subway took her back to Oakland, and it tested quite a few of us when she decided to explore the roof of the Oakland Tribune. She thought about it, death in the afternoon, and jumped from 7 stories. When she died at 2 p.m., it left the crowd in shock, including the reporters with the deadline, like she wants to turn into a headline. When she hit the road, it cleaned her clock. It was a rude departure. Some would say it's nihilistic. It was stopping traffic, far from the seraphic, with a sapphic friend or two. She rarely got her way. That afternoon she did. She had supported her way of life with disembodied phone sex, living in a further disconnect. The following day, the Chronicle reported it. So did the traumatized Tribune. I saw the article by accident and froze. I know that building. She cemented her farewell. Her life is now in ruins. I called my friend, a small-time publisher. He said he heard the news. I was impressed by his composure. He's a realist. He knows about the end. He didn't push her off the edge. He didn't even know her very well. But over the years, they were communicating now and then, with her becoming more withdrawn. Or was it slower and on welfare, saying that her brother killed himself, as did a woman close to her, a strange musician, overdose, who urinated on a stage, another talent languishing without a niche. Who knows how many people are declining, disappearing in a redefining of the present by the nouveau rich. She crashed at his place. On the following morning, he was working, having published a book about the future. You couldn't tell by looking at her she had given up. The court required an appearance. There were loose ends needing an ID, the old one lost. He showed her to the train. It was the last time he would see her. No one recommends a loss of life. She threw a final note, a written explanation before she took to the air. The woman may have had a book in her. It's too late now. That's all she wrote. It turned out that the flames in her apartment several days before were set by her, a failed attempt at suicide. A higher stage was necessary. Falling apart in public is a hell of a thing. She owed $1,000 in rent. The old punks had a do-it-yourself approach, but some could not intuit things to save their life. A dark foreboding in their minds. Calling the director of the theater, I said he shouldn't expect her call. He's weathered, but he couldn't believe it. The depression having wrecked her. He was down himself, and often thought of being dead, a lack of recognition, so morose. He still has the ignition in his truck, a woman he has fought with countless times, remaining by his side. He knows that it is counter-revolutionary, putting the brakes on evolution, giving up because it's cold outside. Mary Jesus, opting out at last. Her own existence had a drastic impact on her, and she didn't know how to act. She held her nose and fell into the past. 30,000 suicides a year. Minority women have the lowest rate. Some question here if character is fate. There are people who don't want to be here. She had spent a day or two in the psych ward following the fire, then in North Beach, where I met her. Now she's out of reach. A fall from grace. Is that the final word? The paper didn't know her relatives or any contacts, coming from a context of the San Joaquin, and that connects to my own background as I used to live there. And I got to know some Portuguese. She reminds me of their dark and brooding wine.